Hello. In this short screencast, we're going to take a look at an application that's being developed as one of the hands-on exercises in Learning Tree's Windows Azure course. And this is an exercise that was developed by the course author, Doug Renstrom. I'm going to just present kind of a high-level overview of this application, and perhaps we'll drill a little bit more deeply into some of the code later on. So this is an example of an application that's built using the web role and worker role, the asynchronous web role worker role pattern. And we can see here that we have in the application a web role, and we have a worker role, and we have some additional an additional library here that abstracts some of the interactions between the data storage for us, and in that way we don't have to have our presentation layer be aware of what particular storage mechanism we're using, nor do we have to have our business, our worker role aware of any of the details of the storage. And this exercise is under development and will likely change a little bit before the actual course is presented, but you'll get the idea of the web role worker role pattern. So let's go ahead and see what this application does. Just to start out here, we'll just go ahead and run it. I'm going to just run it in my development fabric on my local machine here, and I'm also using local storage. But we are presented with a user interface. Admittedly, it's not a very interesting user interface, but that's not the point of this exercise. So what we do in this application here is we prompt the user for some input, and when we receive the input and click this calculate button, we will write some data into a queue that will be then read by the worker role, which is running in the background, sitting in a loop, waiting for messages to appear in the queue. And this can simulate some complex business logic or some long-running calculation. Maybe we want to calculate pi to 3,000 decimal places or something like that. In this case, we're just going to take the user input and do something with it, and then periodically, based on a timer, we will refresh the user interface and just drop the latest calculation into this list, this grid basically, that's bound to a business object. So that's kind of how it works, and we'll just take a brief look at some of the code that makes that happen. Okay, so what's a web role and what's a worker role? Well, a web role is, in this case, just a simple ASP.NET web form. We have a default .aspx page in there, and if you've done any web development in ASP.NET, this should look pretty familiar to you. So this web form implements our user interface logic, and when this calculate button is clicked, we run some code down here that creates our business object for us, and writes that business object onto a queue. And we are, in this case, we are abstracting from so we don't have to write directly into the storage API. We've made a little class here of our own, a MathQ manager that knows how to deal with math problem objects coming to it. And okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's just accept then that something gets written to this queue, and our worker role is just just some code here that has a certain structure to it, defined by the template when we created this role in the project. But the interesting thing for our purposes here is this run method that, as you see here, just sits in a tight loop where it tries to read a math problem from the queue. And if it can read a math problem from the queue, it goes ahead and processes that problem. Where here we have some code to parse out the object, the math problem object, and act accordingly to calculate an answer based on parsing out the various elements of the math problem object. And what it does when it's processing this problem and coming up with an answer for us, it then writes the object, the problem object, which it has now updated a field in, into table storage for us. And we'll get into table storage in quite a bit of detail in the learning tree course on this. But then once the problem has been written, just goes to sleep for 3 seconds to simulate some more complicated processing that might be done here. And then back in our web role, we just rebind our grid view data source, which has been abstracted by a class in our math library that presents the results of the calculation to the user. Since we're talking about queues at this point, we'll get into a little bit of detail on how this MathQ manager class works. Here's where we're actually reading and writing data. Okay, so when we read the queue, we get a message queue object from the queue storage, and then we can read a message from that queue. So that now gives us a message object that we can do something with, and we will as soon as we delete that message from the queue, so that it no longer is there to be read again by worker role. And what we do is take the message, convert it to a string, and pass it into our math problem class, and that returns for us a math problem object. Okay, I hope you found this rapid overview interesting. For more detail on this subject, please consider attending Learning Tree Course 2602.